That plant was dead, not dying, dead. And it came back using something that's probably sitting in your kitchen right now. Today, you're getting 5 natural fertilizers that work fast. Not the vague feed your plants monthly advice you've heard 100 times, but the specific kitchen and household ingredients that solve specific plant problems instantly. By the end of this video, you'll learn exactly what each one fixes, why it works, and the one mistake beginners make with each that cancels out all the benefits. And you'll never look at your kitchen scraps the same way again. Let's get into it. Number 1. Coffee grounds for slow, stunted growth. People dump fresh, undiluted coffee grounds straight onto their soil, thick like they're mulching with espresso. Then they wonder why the plant looks worse, not better. Fresh coffee grounds are acidic and dense. Piled on too thick, they compact, block airflow to the roots, and can actually mold. It's the gardening equivalent of trying to help someone breathe by putting a heavy blanket over their face. Generous, well-intentioned, completely counterproductive.
Coffee grounds work best diluted and balanced. Mix used, not fresh, grounds into compost, or sprinkle a thin layer, no more than a 1/4 inch, directly into soil and work it in lightly. Used grounds are nearly pH neutral, packed with nitrogen, and release it slowly as they break down. This is one of the most searched free fertilizer trends in gardening right now. And for good reason. Nitrogen is the nutrient most responsible for that lush, leafy green growth beginners struggle to get. Leafy plants, lettuce, pothos, ferns, respond especially well. Flowering and fruiting plants need it more sparingly, since too much nitrogen gives you a beautiful, leafy plant that refuses to actually flower. Number 2. Eggshells for weak stems and blossom end rot. People toss whole or barely broken eggshells into the soil and expect results. Tossing whole or barely broken eggshells into the soil does not bring results because they don't break down. They just sit there, decorative, inert, doing absolutely nothing for months. Eggshells are loaded with calcium, which plants need for strong cell walls. Now, think of calcium as the rebar inside a plant's structure. Without enough of it, stems stay weak and floppy. And with that, you get a very specific, very common problem: blossom end rot in tomatoes and peppers, where the bottom of the fruit turns dark and mushy, even though everything else looks fine. So crush the shells until they're closer to powder than shell. A coffee grinder or a rolling pin and a sealed bag works well. The smaller the pieces, the faster the calcium becomes available to the roots. Work the powder into the top few inches of soil, or steep crushed shells in water for a few days to make a quick calcium tea you can pour directly at the base of the plant. This is especially trending in tomato growing circles right now because blossom end rot is one of the most common, most frustrating beginner mistakes, and most people don't realize it's a calcium delivery problem, not a watering problem, until it's too late in the season to fix. Number 3. Banana peels for plants that won't flower. People throw whole banana peels on top of the soil and walk away. The peel sits there, attracts fruit flies, and does almost nothing because it's not actually in contact with the root zone where it matters. Banana peels are rich in potassium, the nutrient most directly responsible for flowering, fruiting, and overall plant resilience. If nitrogen is what makes a plant grow tall and leafy, potassium is what makes it actually bloom and produce. A plant low on potassium can look perfectly healthy and still refuse to flower, which is maddening for beginners who assume green and growing means everything's fine. Chop the peel into small pieces and bury it an inch or 2 under the soil, close to the root zone, not on top. Alternatively, soak chopped peels in water for 2 to 3 days to make a potassium-rich liquid feed, then water your plant with it. The smell is mild and it disappears within a day. This one's having a real moment in the houseplant and balcony gardening community right now, especially among people growing flowering plants in containers, because it's essentially a free potassium supplement that would otherwise go straight in the trash. Number 4. Epsom salt for yellowing leaves that aren't actually a watering problem. Yellowing leaves automatically gets blamed on overwatering or underwatering every single time. Sometimes that's correct. But sometimes the plant is getting the right amount of water and is still yellowing because it's missing magnesium, and nobody thinks to check for that. Magnesium sits at the center of every chlorophyll molecule. It's literally the core ingredient of what makes a plant green. Without enough of it, leaves yellow between the veins, while the veins themselves often stay green, a very specific pattern that's easy to misdiagnose if you don't know to look for it. Dissolve 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate, into a gallon of water and use it to water the plant every 4 to 6 weeks. It's fast-acting because magnesium sulfate is highly soluble, meaning the plant can take it up almost immediately rather than waiting for it to slowly break down in the soil. This is a long-standing trick in rose and tomato growing circles, and it's resurfaced hard in beginner container gardening content recently. Because it's cheap, it's already sitting in most bathroom cabinets, and it solves a problem most new gardeners don't even know they have a name for. If you're the kind of gardener who'd rather use what's already in your kitchen than make another trip to the garden center, this channel is exactly where you need to be. Every week, we break down real, practical fixes like this, the kind that actually work, explained in a way that makes sense the first time. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and come back every week. We've still got one more fertilizer to go, and it's the one that brings plants back from the brink faster than anything else on this list. Let's keep going. Number 5. Aspirin water for genuinely struggling plants that need a push to recover. This is the mistake that trips up almost every beginner, the one that sounds like a myth and isn't. The common mistake here is actually not knowing this exists at all. Most beginners have never heard of it and reach instead for fertilizer, when what the plant actually needs is stress relief, not food. Aspirin contains salicylic acid, a compound plants naturally produce themselves in tiny amounts as part of their own defense and stress response system. It's part of what triggers a plant's immune response to disease, drought, and shock. Giving a struggling plant a small external dose is like handing someone who's just pulled an all-nighter a strong coffee and a moment to sit down. It doesn't fix the underlying issue, but it triggers the plant's own recovery systems faster than it would manage alone. Dissolve 1 regular uncoated aspirin tablet in a gallon of water and use it to water a struggling plant once. Research on salicylic acid in horticulture has shown it can improve a plant's resistance to fungal disease, help with recovery from transplant shock, and even extend the vase life of cut flowers. This is exactly why it's trending hard right now in cut flower and houseplant revival communities. It's one of the few instant interventions in gardening that actually has real science behind the folklore. One important thing to note, though, is that this isn't a fertilizer in the traditional sense, and it's not something to use weekly. It's a recovery tool, something you reach for when a plant is genuinely struggling, not a regular feeding routine. 5 fixes, 5 specific problems. Coffee grounds for slow, stunted growth, eggshells for weak stems and blossom end rot, banana peels for plants that won't flower, Epsom salt for yellowing leaves that aren't actually a watering problem, and aspirin water for genuinely struggling plants that need a push to recover. The common thread running through every single mistake on this list isn't laziness or bad luck. It's beginners treating every plant problem the same way. More water, more fertilizer, more attention, when the actual fix is almost always specific. Different deficiencies look similar on the surface and need completely different solutions underneath. That dead-looking plant from the start of this video didn't need a miracle. It needed the right nutrient, applied the right way, at the right time. You already have most of these sitting in your kitchen right now. If this video just turned your kitchen trash into a gardening toolkit, that's exactly what this channel is here for. Like this video, it helps more beginner gardeners find advice that's actually specific, instead of the same vague feed your plants content recycled everywhere else. Comment below and tell us which one of these 5 you're trying first, and subscribe if you haven't already.
Because next week, we're getting into composting secrets, the specific tricks that take a slow, smelly, neglected compost pile and turn it into rich, finished soil in a fraction of the usual time. If you've ever started composting and given up because it just sat there doing nothing, that video is exactly for you. Same time, same channel. We'll see you there.